Norwegian cameraman with the Commandos. Around us in a choppy sea rode the invasion fleet. The convoy headed for the previously selected landing point at Westkapelle. Here, the Royal Air Force had blasted the beachhead dikes, flooding the island interior so that our landing craft could ride ashore to avoid direct fire of the German coastal batteries. We were prepared for a rough time. The Germans had taken thorough precautions to protect the little island fortress. The garrison had been heavily reinforced with several thousand troops driven from North Beveland on the Dutch mainland by the Allies. Our battleships pushed quietly on, and then it came. Every gun swung into action with an unleashed fury. And the battle for Walcheren was on. We Norwegians waited eagerly for the first sight of land. Many of us had fought the Germans invading our country and remembered the Nazi atrocities. After years of training, this was our first chance to strike back at the enemy on a major scale. The ships plowed steadily toward Walcheren. Smoke rose from direct hits on the island. The landing was but a few minutes off. Tensely, we waited. The shore batteries answered our fire and shells dropped in the water between our ships, much too close to our liking. The fire became more intense. Ships to the left and right sustained direct hits and began to blaze. Our craft was hit. We had to leave in a hurry. I jumped into the water with the rest of the men. Our tanks and heavy equipment moved onto the beach under the barrage. I found our colonel. He was drenched after wading ashore. The first few minutes had not been without casualties. We moved on through the ruins of Westkapelle, our first objective. Snipers were still in hiding. It was too hot for the Nazis. They surrendered quickly when we demolished their heavy fortification. More ran from a second concrete fort. Here, the Norwegian Commandos took their first Nazi prisoners. A few of the men snatched a bite to eat as they watched the prisoners march by. We proudly planted our flag on the Atlantic Wall. The Jerrys didn't like the sight. The town of Domburg to the north was our next objective. We found our tank support ready to push ahead. The villagers looked on. Many were eager to give us useful information to hasten the long-awaited liberation of their homeland. We moved ahead to seize an artillery observation post in a water tower outside the town. Tanks covered our advance. The Germans had retreated during the night, leaving snipers behind to delay us. More frightened Nazis left the protection of their thick-walled fortifications to surrender to the Norwegians. A lone rifleman was hidden in the water tower even after our tank guns blasted it full of holes. He was quickly eliminated. Shell fire from the tanks exploded in an enemy ammunition storage depot in a village on the beach outside Domburg. It burned to the ground. More Nazis surrendered from another nearby fortification. Many were glad to be taken prisoner. Supporting the fast-moving advance of the Commandos northward on the beach, our tanks began firing on enemy strong points again. They were neutralized. Peaceful woodland. We certainly changed that setting. A brief rest, and we had to go into action again. The terrain gave little cover and hardly any protection as we silently ran ahead. No sound from the enemy. Then we answered their fire with everything we had, even captured German machine guns. Our men knew how to handle enemy weapons. The Nazis blanketed our lines with accurate mortar and artillery fire. In the face of our advance, the Germans had withdrawn from their fortified positions. The only cover we found were the craters remaining from our air bombardment. In spite of stiffening opposition, we shoved on. Our cook, rifle in hand, took the situation seriously. We found German wounded and dead. At last, we found cover from the enemy in heavier woodland. The Germans were all around us in well-camouflaged foxholes. Our men fired from the hip with their automatic weapons as they charged forward. Scared, white-faced Jerrys popped from their foxholes to surrender in the face of our small arms fire. Many died because they waited too long. We welcomed the sight of water bottles left behind by the Jerry. Some of the prisoners talked willingly. We found them fed up and disgusted. They saw no reason to continue the fight, trapped and isolated as they were. Hitler's supermen were hardly impressive. They had been told the Commandos take no prisoners. Early in the morning, Belgian commandos moved up to our position to relieve us. They pushed on immediately, Our men ate their first meal in 24 hours and took a well-earned rest. The Belgians were caught in crossfire from snipers. They quickly silenced heavy machine guns and automatic cannon. One group remained in position to draw the enemy's fire. A second party crept through the brush to take the Nazi positions in a flanking move. They were constantly under snipers' fire. The Belgian commander radioed that the attack was going according to plan. More prisoners were sent back to the rear. The Germans grimly held one strong fortification. We called it W-19. It was on the northeasterly point of Walcheren, near North Beveland. Rocket-firing Typhoons and 2 Norwegian Spitfire squadrons softened up resistance here. Meanwhile, we combed the area for German deserters and snipers. Many were hidden in private homes for days and kept their location secret by threatening the Dutch. The villagers were overjoyed when they saw their tormentors as prisoners. The village girls laughed heartily. The people gave us the location of German positions behind the town. Their information helped us to finish the job. Soon afterward, we heard by radio from our command post that the German general had asked for surrender terms. We waited to hear the final decision. Here's the news, good news. The Germans have capitulated. The tension of past days gave way to smiles as the grim-faced commandos heard the tidings. The news spread quickly from one group to another. We saw Germans marching by the thousands. They seemed as happy as we were. The people heard the news too. Yes, the people were overjoyed. Long-hidden Dutch flags appeared again in the streets and on the housetops. The roll of men and supplies to Antwerp was ready to begin. Walcheren was liberated.